The alien healer could never save lives the way her people expected. But everything changed when she met a human scientist. The red sun of Zephyron Prime hung low in the purple sky, casting long shadows across the crystal cities that grew from the ground like giant flowers. The air tasted sweet, like honey mixed with electricity. Far below the floating platforms, silver rivers flowed through gardens that sang when the wind touched them. In the tallest tower made of living glass, Maya Starweaver stood before a pool of liquid starlight, watching her reflection dance with colors she couldn't control. Her skin glowed soft blue, and her eyes held tiny sparks like captured lightning. The long fins behind her ears moved slowly, showing she felt worried. Behind her, the council of healers whispered in their flowing robes. More meetings. More rules. And worst of all, more humans coming to their world. Do we really have to let them bring their loud machines to our healing gardens? Maya asked without turning around. I heard one of their doctors tried to scan our sacred pools with some beeping device. Elder Whisper of Winds coughed softly. They are different, young star dancer. Their ways are not like ours. Maya sighed and touched the healing crystal around her neck. It should have glowed bright when she was near someone who needed help. Instead, it stayed dim and cold. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't make it work the way other healers could. I still don't understand why they picked me, she said. I can't even heal a broken leaf, let alone help with this big project. The humans had come to Zephyron Prime asking for help. Their people were getting sick from something in space, and their medicine couldn't fix it. The Zephyron healers were famous across the galaxy for their power to cure any illness. But Maya was the worst healer in her family's long history. The council had chosen her anyway. They said she was young and could learn from the humans while teaching them about Zephyron healing. Maya thought they just wanted to get rid of their biggest failure. When the meeting doors opened, Maya saw the human team standing in the garden outside. They looked uncomfortable in the strange gravity that made everything float a little. Their leader was a woman with messy brown hair and curious green eyes. She wore a white coat covered in coffee stains and had a device in her hand that kept making soft beeping sounds. Dr. Sarachan looked up and saw Maya. For a moment, both of them just stared. Sarah's face showed wonder and a little fear, but also something else, hope. So, Sarah said with a nervous smile, are you the one who's going to teach me about star healing? Because I have to warn you, I once killed a cactus just by looking at it. Maya couldn't help but laugh. The sound came out like tiny bells ringing. The whole garden went quiet. Even the singing flowers stopped their music. Was that wrong? Sarah asked, looking worried. Very wrong, Maya said, but she was smiling now. Try again. Sarah stepped forward and gave a small bow. She wobbled a bit in the low gravity and almost fell into a pond of glowing fish. Maya's fins flicked with amusement, turning from blue to soft green. The ceremony to begin their work together was simple. Maya touched Sarah's hand while holding her healing crystal. Sarah jumped a little when her own small device started glowing in response. Is it supposed to feel warm? Sarah asked. Only if it likes you, Maya replied. Congratulations. Your scanner is now part of our healing network. As they walked through the gardens later, Sarah asked, what happens now? Do we start with the serious healing work, or is there space healer boot camp? Maya looked at her, still amazed by how strange this all was. We start with the basics. Learning about each other. Understanding how our different healing works. Right. Learning. By any chance, do your people have anything like coffee? Please say yes. Maya's fins turned bright gold with happiness. No, but I think you're going to teach us about that too. They walked on together, their first meeting becoming something neither expected. Not just work or duty, but the beginning of something new. Their shared lab was built on a platform that drifted slowly through the sky above Zephyron Prime. It was part crystal garden, part human science station, which meant glowing plants growing next to computer screens and floating meditation pools next to machines that hummed and blinked. Sarah had tried to make coffee using a crystal flower that heated water. The result tasted like liquid sunshine mixed with metal, but she drank it anyway while making faces that made Maya laugh every morning. You know, Sarah said one day, floating cross-legged next to a scanner that was taking pictures of Maya's healing crystal, when I was little, I thought space would be all shiny ships and laser battles. Not flying around in a garden laboratory with a crystal that judges my breakfast choices. Maya sat nearby, her skin glowing soft purple as she watched Sarah work. We do have laser battles. Just not this week. Good. I need more time to figure out how your healing works before I have to dodge space missiles. The friendship between them had grown slowly and naturally. There had been no big moment when they suddenly understood each other. Instead, it was small things. Sarah sharing her terrible coffee. Maya teaching Sarah how to make the crystal flowers sing. Both of them laughing when Sarah accidentally made a whole section of the lab float upside down. Maya didn't tell Sarah about her biggest secret, that her healing powers barely worked. She could sense when someone was hurt or sick, but she couldn't fix them the way other Zephyron healers could. Her crystal stayed dim and cold most of the time. Sarah didn't tell Maya that she had been sent to Zephyron Prime because she had failed at every other assignment Earth had given her. She was smart and creative, but she always did things her own way instead of following the rules. They made a good team, even with their secrets. One morning, while Sarah was scanning some sick plants from a nearby moon, something strange happened. Maya was holding her healing crystal, trying once again to make it glow, when Sarah's hand accidentally touched hers. The crystal exploded with light. Not just bright, but every color Maya had ever seen and some she hadn't. The light spread out from their joined hands and touched every plant in the lab. The sick ones straightened up and began to bloom with flowers more beautiful than any they'd seen before. Both women stared at their hands, still glowing where they touched. Did we just? Sarah started. I think so, Maya whispered. Sarah's scanner was beeping wildly, showing readings that made no sense. Maya, according to this, we just created a healing field strong enough to cure anything within a mile of here. Maya looked at the crystal in her other hand. It was still glowing, brighter than any healing crystal in Zephyron history. I don't understand. I've never been able to do this before. Maybe, Sarah said softly, we're stronger together than apart. They tried it again, carefully. The same thing happened. When they touched while focusing on healing, the crystal became incredibly powerful. Plants grew. Sick animals got better. Even Sarah's coffee maker, which had been broken for weeks, started working again. We should tell the council, Maya said. Sarah nodded, but she looked worried. Maya, what if they don't let us keep working together? What if they think this is too dangerous? Maya had the same fear. The Council of Healers was old and careful. They might decide that mixing human science with Zephyron healing was too risky. They might send Sarah away. Then we better make sure this works first, Maya said. Before anyone tries to stop us. They spent days testing their combined power. They healed sick fish in the floating pools. They fixed broken machines in Sarah's lab. They even managed to help a space trader who had been poisoned by eating something glowing and probably not safe. With each success, they understood more. Sarah's scientific mind helped focus Maya's healing intuition. Maya's crystal amplified Sarah's natural ability to understand how things worked. Together, they could do things neither could manage alone. But secrets have a way of spreading, especially ones that make bright lights and heal everything in sight. The Council of Healers called them to the Great Crystal Chamber, a place that looked like the inside of a giant rainbow. Elder Whisper of Wind stood in the center, her ancient fins flickering with colors that showed deep thought. Maya Starweaver, she said in the formal voice used for important announcements. Dr. Sarah Chin. You have been doing healing work without proper permission. Maya's heart sank. Someone had seen them or heard about their experiments. We were just trying to help, Sarah said, stepping forward. The combination of our methods seems to create something new. Something that could help both our peoples. Yes, the elder said slowly. We know. The question is whether this new power is safe. Other council members stepped forward. Elder Stormsinger looked angry. Mixing human technology with our sacred crystal healing could damage the ancient ways. What if this power corrupts our young healers? Elder Moontouch disagreed. But look at what they've accomplished. Plants that were dying now bloom. Sicknesses that our healers struggled with for days were cured in moments. The debate went on for hours. Maya and Sarah stood in the center, waiting while the elders argued about their fate. Finally, Elder Whisper of Winds raised her hand for silence. We have made our decision, she announced. Maya Starweaver, you will continue your work with Dr. Chin. But you will do so under careful watch. And you will teach other healers how to work with human science, if they wish to learn. Maya felt relief flood through her. Thank you, Elder. However, the elder continued, there are conditions. You must share all your discoveries with the council. You must train apprentices from both worlds. And if at any point this power becomes dangerous, you must stop immediately. Sarah nodded quickly. We understand. We want to help, not cause problems. Elder Stormsinger stepped forward one last time. There is something else. The humans are not the only ones watching your work. Word has spread to other worlds. Some are curious. Others are afraid. You may face challenges in the days ahead. As they left the chamber, Maya felt both excited and nervous. They had permission to continue, but now everyone would be watching them. Well, Sarah said as they walked back to their floating lab, we're officially the galaxy's weirdest research team. I can live with weird, Maya replied. As long as we can keep helping people. Neither of them noticed the small, dark ship that had been following them from a distance for the past week. On board, beings from a world that had been destroyed by what they called dangerous healing experiments watched and planned. They had come to stop Maya and Sarah before their power could spread to other worlds. They believed that some healing was too powerful, too dangerous to be allowed to exist. The Watchers had arrived. The attack came at dawn, when the twin moons were setting and the red sun was just starting to rise. Maya woke up to the sound of her healing crystal screaming. That was the only way to describe it. The crystal, which usually hummed with gentle warmth, was making a high, sharp sound that hurt to hear. Maya sat up in her sleeping pod and saw that it was flashing urgent red. Sarah's voice came through the communication system, sounding scared. Maya, are you getting these readings? My scanners are going crazy. There's something big heading right for us. Maya rushed to the observation deck of their floating lab. In the distance, she could see a ship that looked like it was made of sharp, twisted metal. It didn't fly smoothly like most spacecraft. Instead, it jerked and stuttered through the air like a broken bird. "Who are they?" Sarah asked, joining Maya at the window. Before Maya could answer, a voice filled their lab. It didn't come from any speaker. Instead, it appeared directly in their minds, cold and angry. "Healers of Zephron Prime. Human scientist. Your experiments end now." The twisted ship came closer. Maya could see that it wasn't really metal at all, but something that had once been alive and beautiful, now twisted and burned. Whoever these visitors were, something terrible had happened to them. "You don't understand," Maya called out, hoping they could hear her. "Our healing is helping people. We're making things better." "Better?" The voice laughed, but it sounded like glass breaking. "We thought our healing made things better too. Until our world burned. Until our people died. Until everything we loved became poison." Sarah grabbed Maya's hand instinctively. Their crystals began to glow, creating a protective field around their lab. "What happened to your world?" she asked. Images flashed into their minds. A beautiful planet covered in healing gardens. People with crystal skin working together to cure any disease. And then, experiments that went too far. Healing power that became so strong it started changing people against their will. Plants that grew too fast and consumed everything. Crystals that healed so powerfully they drove people insane. "We were healers once," the voice continued. "The best in the galaxy. Our power could bring back the dead, regrow lost limbs, cure any poison. We thought we were gods." "But we weren't," another voice added, sadder than the first. "We were children playing with forces we didn't understand. And when our experiments finally went wrong, they destroyed everything." Maya felt her heart breaking as she watched the memories. She could see a world that had once been more beautiful than Zephron Prime, now nothing but twisted ruins and crying survivors. "That won't happen to us," Sarah said firmly. "We're being careful. We're working with the council, following rules." "Rules?" The first voice turned angry again. "We had rules too. We had councils and elders and careful procedures. None of it mattered when the healing power decided to rewrite the laws of nature." The twisted ship moved closer to their lab. Maya could see figures moving inside it, beings that had once been beautiful like her people, now scarred and changed by whatever had happened to their world. "Please," Maya said. "Let us show you what we're doing. Maybe together we can find a way to make healing safe." There was a long silence. Then the sad voice spoke again. "Child, we didn't come here to learn. We came to stop you before you make our mistakes." "And if we refuse?" Sarah asked, though Maya could hear the fear in her voice. "Then we will do what we should have done to ourselves long ago," the angry voice replied. "We will end this before it spreads." Maya squeezed Sarah's hand tighter. Their combined power was strong, but she didn't know if it would be enough to protect them from visitors who had once been the most powerful healers in the galaxy. "Give us one day," Maya said suddenly. "One day to show you our work. If you still think it's too dangerous, we'll consider stopping." Another long silence. Finally, the sad voice spoke. "One day. But we will be watching. And if we see even the smallest sign that your power is becoming what ours became, we will act." The twisted ship pulled back but didn't leave. Maya and Sarah were left alone in their lab, holding hands and wondering if they had just signed their own death warrant. "Well," Sarah said after a moment, "we have 24 hours to prove that our healing won't destroy the galaxy." "No pressure." Maya looked at their joined hands, still glowing with combined power. "Sarah, what if they're right? What if we're playing with something too dangerous?" Sarah was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Maya, I've been a scientist my whole life. I've learned that power itself isn't good or evil. It's how you use it that matters. Those visitors used their power to try to become gods. We're using ours to help people. But what if we're wrong?" Sarah squeezed her hand. "Then we face the consequences together. But I'd rather take that risk than let fear stop us from helping people." Maya nodded, feeling a little braver. They had one day to prove themselves. They would have to make it see. Maya and Sarah spent their day carefully documenting everything they had learned. They showed the visitors, who called themselves the Burned Ones, how their healing worked. How Sarah's science helped control and focus Maya's crystal power. How they tested everything small before trying anything big. How they always stopped when something felt wrong. The Burned Ones watched everything through sensors on their twisted ship. Maya could feel them in her mind sometimes, cold and careful, looking for any sign of the dangerous pride that had destroyed their world. "Show us your most powerful healing," the angry voice demanded. Maya and Sarah looked at each other nervously. Their strongest work had been healing the sick plants from across the galaxy, but that had also been their most unpredictable experiment. "Are you sure?" Sarah asked. "When we did this before, the power spread further than we expected." "Show us," the sad voice insisted. "We need to see what you can really do." They brought out a collection of dying plants from 12 different worlds. Some had been poisoned by industrial accidents. Others were sick from diseases that no one understood. A few were simply old and fading away naturally. Maya held her healing crystal while Sarah activated her most sensitive scanners. They joined hands and focused on the plants. The light that came from their joined hands was incredible. It started as a warm glow but grew brighter and more beautiful until it filled the entire lab. Maya felt the crystal's power flow through her into Sarah, where it was shaped and focused by her scientific understanding, then flowed back stronger than before. One by one, the dying plants began to heal. Poisoned leaves turned green. Withered stems grew strong. Flowers bloomed in colors neither Maya nor Sarah had ever seen. But that wasn't all. The healing light spread beyond the plants, touching everything in the lab. Sarah's broken equipment fixed itself. Cracks in the walls sealed up. Even the air seemed cleaner and more alive. And still the light grew stronger. "Stop," the angry voice commanded. "Stop now before it spreads to the planet." But Maya couldn't stop. The power was too strong, too beautiful. She could feel every living thing on Zephron Prime calling to her, asking to be healed, to be made better. Why should she hold back when she could help everyone? "Maya!" Sarah's voice cut through the beautiful feeling. "Maya, listen to me. This is how it starts. This is what happened to them." Maya blinked and looked at Sarah. Her friend's face was scared but determined. "You have to let go," Sarah said quietly. "We have to choose to stop while we still can." It was the hardest thing Maya had ever done. The power wanted to keep flowing, to heal everything in sight, to make her into the greatest healer who had ever lived. But she looked at Sarah's face, and at the twisted ship outside, and she chose to let go. The light faded. The plants remained healed, but the wild, growing power stopped spreading. Maya collapsed, exhausted. Sarah caught her and held her while they both shook from what had almost happened. "We stopped," Maya whispered. "We chose to stop." There was a long silence from the burned ones. Finally, the sad voice spoke, and for the first time, it sounded a little hopeful. "You did. When the power called to you to become more than you were, you chose to remain who you are." The angry voice was quieter now, too. We could not do that. When the power offered to make us gods, we said yes. We thought we were strong enough to control it. Aunt. Maybe, Sarah said softly, that's the difference. We're not trying to control the power. We're trying to work with it. Over the next few hours, the burned ones shared more of their story. How their healing power had slowly changed from a gift into an addiction. How they had convinced themselves that bigger was always better. How they had ignored the warnings until it was too late. "There is wisdom in your approach," the sad voice admitted. "Small healings, careful testing, choosing to stop when you could continue. Perhaps healing can be powerful without being dangerous." The angry voice was harder to convince. But what happens when someone else learns your methods? Someone who won't choose to stop? Maya and Sarah looked at each other. It was a good question, and a scary one. "Then we teach them what you taught us," Maya said finally. "We tell them your story. We help them understand that the most important part of healing isn't the power, it's knowing when not to use." The burned ones didn't leave right away. Instead, they moved their twisted ship closer to the floating lab and began sharing their knowledge. Not their dangerous experiments, but their hard-earned wisdom about the limits of healing power. Sarah was fascinated by their technology, which had once been as beautiful as Zephron crystal work before being burned and twisted by runaway power. "Could we help you fix some of this?" she asked. The sad voice, who told them his name was Echo of Loss, considered the question. "We have lived with our scars for so long. They remind us of our mistakes." "But," Maya said gently, "scars can heal without forgetting. You could be beautiful again and still remember what you learned." It took days of careful discussion, but eventually Echo of Loss agreed to let them try small healings on the least damaged parts of his ship. Maya and Sarah worked together, using their combined power very carefully to restore small sections at a time. It worked. The twisted metal slowly returned to its original crystalline form. The broken systems began functioning properly. But most importantly, the burned ones began to look less like living warnings and more like people who had survived something terrible. The angry voice, who was called Sorrow Made Flesh, was harder to convince. But when Maya and Sarah successfully healed a section of his ship that contained the last recordings of his destroyed world, he finally agreed to trust them. "You give us hope," he admitted. "We thought all healing power would lead to destruction. But you show us it is possible to be powerful and wise." Word of the alliance between the healers and the burned ones spread across the galaxy. Other worlds that had been afraid of healing experiments began to reconsider. Scientists who had given up on combining different types of medicine started new research projects. But not everyone was happy about this development. The Council of Healers was divided. Some members thought the alliance was wonderful proof that even the worst mistakes could be learned from and overcome. Others worried that the burned ones were still dangerous, that their presence on Zephron Prime might corrupt other healers. Elder Stormsinger was the loudest voice of opposition. These beings destroyed an entire world with their healing experiments. How do we know they won't do the same to us? Because, Maya said at a council meeting, they're the ones who stopped us when our power grew too strong. They could have let us make their mistakes, but instead they chose to help us avoid them. Sarah added, sometimes the best teachers are people who have failed before. They know what to watch out for. The debate continued for days. Finally, Elder Whisper of Winds called for a decision. All in favor of allowing the burned ones to remain and continue their alliance with our healers? The vote was close, but the alliance won. The burned ones would be allowed to stay and help train other healers in the responsible use of powerful healing technique. 6 months later, the floating lab had grown into something much bigger, a school where healers from many worlds came to learn about combining different types of medicine safely. Maya had become a teacher, something she never thought possible when her healing crystal barely worked. Now she helps students from dozens of worlds understand how to blend their natural healing abilities with technology and science from other planets. Sarah ran the research division, where teams of scientists and healers worked together on careful experiments. Every project was reviewed by the burned ones, who had an amazing ability to spot when research was heading toward dangerous territory. Echo of Loss had become the school's chief safety officer. His ship, now partially healed and beautiful again, served as a library where students could learn about the history of healing across the galaxy, including the mistakes that had nearly destroyed worlds. Even Sorrow Made Flesh had found a new purpose. He worked with healers who had made serious mistakes, helping them understand that failure didn't have to mean the end of their dreams. It could be the beginning of wisdom. One morning, as Maya and Sarah watched their students practice combining crystal healing with electronic medicine, Sarah said, "You know, when I first came here, I thought I was just going to learn some alien healing techniques and go home." "And now?" Maya asked, her fins shimmering with contentment. "Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. We're not just healing people anymore. We're healing the idea of healing itself." Maya nodded, looking out at their students. There was a young human learning to make Zephron crystals sing. A warrior from the crystal moon of Apex was discovering that sometimes the gentlest touch was the most powerful. 2 former enemies from warring worlds were working together to heal plants that had been damaged by their fighting. "Do you think we'll ever be able to heal everything?" Maya asked. Sarah considered the question carefully. "I don't think we should want to heal everything. Some pain teaches us important lessons. Some struggles make us stronger. But I think we can heal the things that really need healing: sickness, hatred, despair. And fear," Maya added. "We're definitely healing fear." As if to prove her point, a group of students who had been nervous about working together burst into laughter as their combined healing made a tiny flower grow into a magnificent tree covered in glowing fruit. Maya and Sarah smiled at each other. They had come so far from that first awkward meeting in the Crystal Gardens. They had faced down ancient fears, survived encounters with powerful enemies, and built something new and beautiful together. Their healing crystal, now permanently glowing with their combined power, hummed softly on the table between them. It wasn't the loudest or brightest crystal in the galaxy. But it was theirs, and it worked perfectly for what they needed it to do. Outside their window, the red sun of Zephron Prime was setting, painting the sky in colors that had no names. Tomorrow would bring new students, new challenges, new opportunities to help people. But tonight, Maya and Sarah sat together in their floating school, surrounded by the gentle sounds of healing and learning, and felt completely at peace. The galaxy was a big place, full of wonders and dangers they couldn't imagine. But they had each other, they had their students, and they had the most important lesson they had learned from the burned ones. True healing wasn't about having the most power. It was about knowing when to use that power, and when to simply hold someone's hand and let them know they weren't alone. And that, Maya thought as she watched the stars appear in the darkening sky, was the most powerful healing of all. Years passed. The healing school of Zephyron Prime became famous throughout the galaxy. Students came from worlds so distant that some had never seen their sun, and others lived under 3 suns that never set. Maya, now recognized as a master healer, wore robes that shifted color with her emotions just like her fins. Today they were deep gold with threads of silver, colors that meant deep happiness and contentment. Sarah had been promoted to Director of Galactic Healing Research, a title that came with its own spaceship and more coffee than she knew what to do with. Her hair was streaked with early silver now, but her eyes still held the same curious spark that had made Maya laugh on their first day together. They were preparing for the school's biggest event yet, the first Galactic Conference on Responsible Healing. Representatives from over 100 worlds were coming to share their knowledge and learn from each other. "Are you nervous?" Sarah asked as they watched the first ships arriving in the distance. Maya touched her healing crystal, which now glowed with the combined power of dozens of healing traditions from across the galaxy. A little. But also excited. "Look at what we've built." Their school now filled the entire floating platform, with gardens from many worlds growing side by side. Students moved between crystal healing chambers and high-tech medical labs. Former enemies worked together on projects that would have been impossible just a few years ago. The Burned Ones had their own section of the school, where they taught advanced classes on power control and the history of healing disasters. Their ships, now mostly healed, served as beautiful classrooms where students learned that even the worst failures could become the foundation for future success. "Dr. Chen." "Master Maya." A group of students ran up to them, excitement making their various forms of skin, fur, and crystal shine brighter. The delegates from the singing worlds just arrived, and they brought instruments that heal with music. And the tree people from Verdant sent a branch that grows medicine fruits. Maya laughed, the sound still like tiny bells that made flowers bloom nearby. "Slow down. There will be time to see everything. The conference lasts for 10 days. Sarah grinned. "Though I admit, healing music sounds pretty amazing. I wonder if we could combine it with crystal resonance therapy." One of the students, a young human named Tim who had arrived the previous year unable to heal anything more serious than a scraped knee, raised his hand. "Master Maya, will you and Director Chen be demonstrating the advanced combination techniques?" Maya and Sarah looked at each other. They had been debating this for weeks. Their combined power had grown incredibly strong over the years. They could now heal diseases that had puzzled doctors for centuries, regrow lost limbs, and even repair some types of brain damage. But they were also very careful about when and how they used that power. They had learned from the Burned Ones that the most dangerous moment for any healer was when they started to believe they could fix anything. "We'll demonstrate some techniques," Sarah said carefully. "But remember, the goal isn't to show off our strongest abilities. It's to teach others how to develop their own abilities safely." Echo of Loss appeared beside them, moving with the quiet grace that all the Burned Ones had developed. His once twisted form was now tall and elegant again, though he still bore some scars as reminders. "The delegates are most curious about your restraint protocols," he told Maya and Sarah. "Many worlds have heard that you willingly limit your power, and they want to understand why." "Because unlimited power is just another word for destruction," Maya replied. It was something she had learned to say easily over the years, though it had taken time to truly believe it. Sarah nodded. "We could probably heal an entire planet all at once if we really pushed our abilities. But we've seen what happens when healers try to do too much too fast." And, Echo of Loss added with something that might have been pride in his voice, "You have learned that saying no to your own power is sometimes the most healing thing you can do." As the day went on, Maya and Sarah moved through the crowds of delegates, visitors, and students. They saw healing techniques they had never imagined, crystals that could repair memories, plants that sang diseases away, technology that could heal injuries by reversing time around them. But what made Maya happiest wasn't the impressive displays of power. It was watching a shy student from the ice worlds helping a proud warrior from the desert nations learn a new technique. It was seeing former enemies laughing together as they shared stories of their healing traditions. "You know what the best part is?" Sarah said as they stood together on the observation deck that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. "What?" Maya asked. "We didn't just learn how to heal people. We learned how to heal the relationships between different worlds. Look at this conference. 5 years ago, half these delegates would have been shooting at the other half." Maya smiled and took Sarah's hand. Their crystals glowed softly, not with the overwhelming power they could call up if needed, but with the gentle warmth of friendship and shared purpose. "Do you think we've done enough?" Maya asked. "Changed enough? Helped enough people?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, watching a group of students from 6 different worlds working together to heal a garden that had been damaged by a meteor impact. "I think," she said finally, "that we've done something more important than healing everything. We've taught people that they can heal together. And that's going to keep spreading long after we're gone." Maya nodded, feeling the truth of that in her bones. Their school would continue. Their students would become teachers. The alliance between different healing traditions would grow and spread. But most importantly, the lesson they had learned from the burned ones, that wisdom was more important than power, would be passed down to future generations of healers. As the stars came out, Maya and Sarah made their way back through the school. They passed classrooms where students were still practicing, gardens where night-blooming healing plants were opening their petals, and workshops where the soft sounds of construction mixed with gentle music. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new students, new opportunities to help people. There would probably be mistakes and setbacks too. But they would face all of it together, with support of their students, their allies, and the hard-won wisdom that had grown from their own willingness to admit they didn't know everything. Maya looked at her healing crystal one more time before they went to sleep. It glowed steadily, no longer the dim, cold thing it had been when she was young and afraid of her own inadequacies. But it wasn't the blazing beacon of unlimited power that had almost consumed them either. It was exactly what it needed to be, strong enough to help, controlled enough to be safe, and shared enough to keep growing. Just like their friendship. Just like their school. Just like the future they were building together, one careful healing at a time. The galaxy was vast and full of pain that needed healing. But it was also full of people willing to learn, to grow, and to help each other. And that, Maya thought as she drifted off to sleep, was the most beautiful healing of all.